I have been married to my wife for 5 months, living together for almost a year before marriage. My stepdaughter Anne, 16-year-old female, used to split time between her parents, but is currently with us full-time as her father will be overseas until August. I also have a son, Leo, 17-year-old male, who lives mostly with my ex-wife and with me on weekends. The kids go to different schools and have a decent relationship. My wife and Anne are great cooks. My wife's parents came from another country, and she and Anne regularly make exotic dishes from their homeland, which are delicious. Both my son and I appreciate the dishes, though we still have problems learning what is what. A few days ago, Leo stopped by for something he left. Nobody was home, so he let himself in. Leo said there was a big pot of stew on the stove and it smelled delicious, and he asked if he could have some. My wife or Anne often made a huge batch of food when they cook, so it was nothing surprising. I told Leo to go ahead and just leave some for us. Now Leo is a wrestler and he eats a lot. A while later he sent me a photo showing me how much stew was left in the pot. I could tell there were at least 5 servings left, so I thought nothing of it. An hour later, Anne called me, upset. She asked if I had eaten the stew she made. It was a special recipe from her grandma, and she invited her friends over to try it. She said the stew was supposed to feed 9 people, and she invited 6 friends, but someone obviously had eaten almost half of her stew. I told her it was Leo and apologized, telling her she could order pizza for her friends and I would pay for it. Anne said it was poor compensation for her friends looking forward to her stew, which she spent hours preparing, but she did take my offer. When I later apologized and had Leo call to apologize himself, she said she accepted our apologies, though she has been rather quiet around me. My wife later told me I should not just allow Leo to eat whatever he wants in our kitchen, as sometimes she and Anne have plans for their dishes. I think it's completely ridiculous that Leo is not allowed to eat things from his own father's kitchen, and if my wife or Anne has a special plan for their food, they should put a note on it. Otherwise, things in the kitchen should be up for grabs, as the kitchen is a communal space for food, and I pay for most of the groceries. I think if Leo is not allowed to have the food, then it's like he's not part of the family. I am willing to talk to him about portion control, but other than that, I think he should be able to eat what he wants in the kitchen, unless there's a note saying not to. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're the idiot, especially because it was still cooking. Might be different if it was leftovers in the fridge, but that still depends on the system you set up as a family. Really not that hard to shoot a text to the family members who do a lot of the cooking when you decide you want to eat it. Comment 2. You're the idiot. You can feed Leo anything you made. You can let Leo fix himself some food from the groceries you have available. You don't get to simply decide that food somebody else fixed is available for him to eat. You ask the person who made it what the plans are for the food, and if you think your offer of pizza to make up for the anticipated soup made everything better, you're as smart as a box of rocks. Now, for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. They really helped me see things from different perspectives. So it's been 2 weeks since the stew incident, and let me tell you, things have been interesting. After the whole stew fiasco, I had a chat with Leo about portion control and being more considerate. He took it well, and I thought we were on the right track. But then a few days later, Anne made a cake for a school project. She left it on the counter with a clear note saying, "Do not eat for school." Well, Leo came over that weekend, saw the cake, and thought the note was a joke. He ate a slice. When Anne found out, she was livid, steam coming out of her ears livid. She yelled at Leo and he just stood there looking like a deer caught in headlights. I had to step in and calm things down. I apologized to Anne and promised to replace the cake. Leo also apologized, but the damage was done. Anne's trust in him was shaken, and she started labeling everything she made with her name. It was like walking into a kitchen with food marked like in a college dorm fridge. My wife was upset too. She said that Leo's actions were making Anne feel unwelcome in her own home. That hit me hard. I never wanted anyone to feel that way, especially not Anne. So I sat down with Leo and explained how his actions were affecting Anne. He seemed to understand and promised to be more mindful. Things were tense for a while, but slowly Anne started to warm up to Leo again. They even teamed up to cook dinner one night, which I thought was a great sign. It was nice to see them laughing and joking around in the kitchen. I felt like we were finally becoming a family. But then last weekend something happened that I didn't expect. Leo was over and we were all having a good time. Anne had made her famous lasagna and we were all looking forward to it. But when we sat down to eat, Leo suddenly pushed his plate away and said he wasn't hungry. I thought it was strange, but I didn't want to make a scene. Later that night, I found Leo sitting on the back porch, looking upset. I asked him what was wrong, and after some prodding he finally opened up. He told me that he felt like an outsider in our home. He said that ever since the stew incident, he felt like he had to walk on eggshells around Anne and my wife. He missed how things used to be when it was just the two of us. I was taken aback. I had been so focused on making sure Anne felt included that I hadn't realized how Leo was feeling. I felt like a failure as a dad. I hugged him and apologized. We talked for a long time and I promised to make things right. The next day I talked to my wife and Anne. I told them how Leo was feeling, and to my surprise they were both understanding. Anne even apologised to Leo for overreacting about the cake. We all agreed to work on our communication and make sure everyone felt included and respected. Things have been better since then. We've started having family meetings to discuss the week's meals and any special food plans. It's helped prevent any more food-related misunderstandings. But here's the twist. Last night, Anne came to me with a sheepish look on her face. She confessed that she had eaten some of Leo's leftover pizza a few weeks ago, thinking it was up for grabs. She felt guilty after seeing how everything unfolded and wanted to come clean. Leo just laughed it off, saying it was no big deal. It was a small moment, but it felt like a huge step forward for our blended family. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster of emotions these past 2 weeks, but I think we're finally learning how to live together as a family. And who knows, maybe one day we'll look back at the Great Stew incident and laugh. Now for the comments, comment 1. Hey there. Navigating a blended family can be like walking through a minefield with a blindfold on, huh? I get where you're coming from. You want Leo to feel at home. But it's also important to respect Anne's space and her special things. Maybe a family chat about kitchen rules could help everyone feel heard and respected. You're not the bad guy for wanting your son to feel welcome, but it's all about finding that balance. Comment 2. I'm curious, have you thought about setting up a schedule for family meals where everyone can contribute? It might help Leo feel more included and give Anne a chance to showcase her cooking. Plus, it's a great way for everyone to bond. Communication is key in blended families, so keep those lines open and keep working at it. Now for the next story. Last Saturday, my daughter, who is 3 years old, my mum, and I went to the neighbouring town for a day of shopping. It is currently summer in my country, and where we live it gets really hot. After watching a movie, we are walking back to my car, which is parked in the sun on the roof car park. We come across an old friend of my mum's who lives in the same town, and they start talking. I politely stand in the hot sun with my daughter for 10 minutes, listening to them talk. My daughter starts fidgeting and getting grumpy. I realise that she is overheating and needs to get in the shade. I tell my mum that we have to get my daughter into the shade and ask if she can chat with her friend at home. My mum snaps at me, telling me that I need to teach my daughter to be patient and respectful when adults are speaking. This was the story of my entire childhood. My mum is very inconsiderate of me and my siblings' needs. Whenever she would run into a friend, she would make us wait in a hot car or in the heat while she chats to them for 30 minutes. When we were on long car rides and needed to pee, she would make us wait until we got to our destination. I remember peeing myself a couple of times because of this, and she would scold me for peeing myself on purpose. I remember going the entire day without food, besides breakfast, if we were out running errands. She would refuse to take us home and feed us or buy us food to eat. She would spend hours on the phone talking to her friends and ignoring us kids. If we dared to ask her for something, she would snap at us to leave her alone and complain about how she never gets time to herself. The conversation and her comments made me really angry. I promptly took my daughter to the car and started driving out of the parking lot. I stopped by my mum and told her I was taking my daughter home now, and she could either come with us now or find another way home. She laughed at me and told me to stop being dramatic and that she would take as long as she needed with her friend. I think she thought I was bluffing and would pull over and wait for her. Instead, I drove off without her and got a call 20 minutes later asking where I was. I told her I was on my way home and for her to find another ride. I didn't listen to the rest and hung up on her. I received a text from her that night saying how I disrespected her and left her stranded. Her friend left before she realised I was gone and didn't answer the phone while driving. I told my mum that I wasn't going to let my kid pass out from heat exhaustion just because she wanted to chat for an hour. I also brought up the previous incidents and told her that she needs to consider other people's needs over her wants. We had a big argument, and she said I crossed a big line by leaving her stranded, even if the other stuff was true. Now that I've cooled down a bit, I am feeling guilty for what I did and for not bringing it up in a more mature way. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. She messed around and found out. You gave her multiple opportunities to get in the car. You told her what you were doing. She didn't respect you. For your information, always drive if you go anywhere with her again because she strikes me as someone who would ditch you on purpose. Love your shiny spine, by the way. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Your mother is hurtful as hell and I'd go no contact with her and start seeing a therapist. I feel like the nonchalant way you described her actions means you don't see the abuse for what it is. Bravo to you for breaking the cycle and putting yours and your daughter's needs first. Now for the update, thanks to everyone who read my last post. It's been a wild few months since then and a lot has happened. I guess I never expected things to spiral the way they did, but here we are. After the incident with my mum, things were tense for a while. We didn't talk for a couple of weeks, which was both a relief and a source of stress. I kept replaying the argument in my head, wondering if I had been too harsh. But then I'd remember my daughter's red, sweaty face and I'd harden again. It was a cycle of guilt and justification that kept me up at night. Eventually, my mum reached out. She wanted to see her granddaughter, and I couldn't deny her that. We met up at a local park, a neutral ground of sorts. It was awkward at first, but seeing my daughter run towards her with open arms melted some of the ice. We talked, really talked, for the first time in years. She apologized for the parking lot incident and even acknowledged that she hadn't always considered our needs growing up. It felt like a breakthrough, and for a moment I thought we could turn a new leaf. Over the next few weeks, we started rebuilding our relationship. She made an effort to be more considerate, asking about our plans and making sure my daughter's needs were met when we were together. It was nice having my mum around and not feeling like I was on edge all the time. My daughter adored her, and I could see the positive impact their bond had on her. But old habits die hard. One day we were out for lunch and my mum ran into another old friend. I could see the scene from the parking lot about to replay itself. I tensed up, ready to intervene, but to my surprise my mum excused herself after a brief chat. She came back to our table with a smile, proud of herself. It was a small victory, but it meant the world to me. Things were good for a while. We had our ups and downs, but it felt like we were on the right track. Then, one day, my mum asked to take my daughter out for the day, just the two of them. I was hesitant, but I didn't want to be overprotective. I said yes, reminding her to keep my daughter hydrated and not to stay out in the sun too long. Hours passed, and I didn't hear from them. I tried calling, but my mum's phone went straight to voicemail. Panic set in. I drove to all the places they might be, my heart racing with every empty playground and cafe I passed. Finally, I got a call. It was the hospital. They had been at a street fair and my mum had run into yet another friend. Lost in conversation, she hadn't noticed my daughter wander off. By the time she did, my daughter was found passed out from heat exhaustion. She was okay, the doctors assured me, but it was a close call. I was furious and heartbroken. All the progress we'd made seemed to crumble in an instant. My mum was apologetic, but it wasn't enough. I couldn't trust her anymore, not when it came to my daughter's safety. We've barely spoken since then. I can't bring myself to forgive her, not yet, maybe not ever. It's a sad resolution to what I hoped would be a new chapter for us. But my daughter's well-being comes first, and I can't compromise on that. So that's where we are now. It's been a journey of highs and lows, of hope and disappointment. I've learned that some patterns are hard to break and that sometimes protecting your child means making tough decisions about who you let into their lives. It's not the update I hope to give, but it's the truth of where we stand. Now, for the comments. Comment 1. Oh honey, your mum's got the patience of a toddler on a sugar crash. Next time pack a portable fan and a spray bottle. Keep your kiddo cool and maybe spritz your mum when she gets heated. Priorities, right? Your little one's comfort trumps an old chinwag any day. Comment 2. I hear you, it's tough when history repeats itself. You're not just a bystander anymore, you're a parent protecting your cub. Trust that gut feeling and don't let guilt trip you. You're doing what's best for your daughter and that's what counts. Stay strong. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.